Hi gorgeous! Happy Frugal Friday to you. In today's video, I'm doing a side-by-side comparison between a $2 eyeshadow palette and an $80 eyeshadow palette. You may remember this little gem that I talked about in the video very recently. It was a find from Beauty Treats that I picked up from a Five Below store, and it caught quite the amount of attention with all of you. And I know many of you went out and hunted this little guy down, and you were telling me how much you loved it, and I'm so happy that I was able to find something like this to share with you. But it got me thinking, is it really comparable to the $80 Viseart palette? So in this video today, I'm going to show you a side-by-side application with each of these palettes. I'll wear them throughout the day, come back at the end of the video, and let you know if this really does stack up to this one. I already have my eyeshadow primer applied. For the first eyeshadow that I'm using, I'm going to go with the orange shade because I'm really interested to see how it's going to compare between these two palettes. Usually when I do these side-by-side comparisons too, I don't tell you which side is drugstore, which side is high-end, but I am going to tell you in this video so you can see in real time what each of the eyeshadows look. So from the Beauty Treats palette, I'm applying that orange onto this eye. Very pigmented, easy to work with. I just love this little palette. It's so hard for me to believe that it's $2. It still is. And from the Viseart palette, I'm applying that orange into the crease. And I did switch my brush, because you know somebody's gonna have a conniption if I don't switch my brush. You can tell instantly that the color is not identical. The Viseart side is a more red-toned orange compared to the Beauty Treat side over here. But as far as pigmentation goes, I feel like they are very comparable to one another, and blendability is great with both of these too. Like you can see with the Viseart one over here, blends out so nicely. And if you remember the first video I did on the Beauty Treats, that one blends out real nicely too. Pretty comparable up to this point. Next shade I'm using is the medium brown right next to the orange shade in both of these palettes. And applying this into the outer corner of the eye, like so. Again, I'm not seeing any real difference. I mean, the color varies slightly if you're going to really hone in on the differences between both of these palettes, but it's not a huge enough difference to where I would say it could not ever be duped with the Viseart palette, because I do feel like it can. And then I'm going back and blending over the edges. Finally taking a light yellow shade, at least it looks kind of yellow in the Beauty Treats palette, but there's a slight variation to it in the Viseart palette. And applying this into the inner half of the lid and blending it into that shade in the outer half. And you can see what I mean here in the color variation. And also there's a little bit of a pigment difference in the lighter shades in both of these palettes, whereas the Viseart one is a little more pigmented in the lighter shades compared to the Beauty Treats palette over here. But there is that color variation between the two, whereas this one is more of a pinky orange and this one is more of that yellow toned shade. Now I'm taking the smallest amount of this dark brown eyeshadow from both of these palettes and working this into the outer V. And I mean tiny. I don't want this to be too much, but just enough to add some definition to the outer corner of the eye. Applying it on the same eye and then applying it over here. And I tend to work in circular motions when I'm applying eyeshadow into the outer V. That helps to disperse it more evenly on the eye. And that's the final look. It's not 100% a match if you're going to be picky about it, but if you're looking for something that is really close in color, application, intense pigmentation, then I do feel like the $2 Beauty Treats palette is excellent in comparison with the $80 Viseart palette. So I'm gonna wear this throughout the day, and I'll come back at the end of the video to do a check-in with you, and we'll see if the longevity of the Beauty Treats side stacks up to the Viseart side or not. $80, $2. And after wearing both of these palettes throughout the day, I can tell you that the $2 side did hold its own against the $80 palette. And if you look closely here, you can see no fading to speak of whatsoever, no creasing, and the color is still just as strong on this eye as it is over here. And one of the other things I want to note about those cheaper drugstore palettes is that sometimes you can get eyeshadows that start to bleed into one another, and then the look is muddy by the end of the day. That did not happen with this palette at all. And if you look closely, you can still see all of the colors in the different places where I applied them. And even though there was a slight color variation during application, after wearing them all day, you really can't tell which side is which. My personal opinion, you let me know what you think. I am thoroughly impressed with this palette and I cannot recommend it to you enough. So if you're looking for a $2 dupe for the Viseart Neutral Matte Palette, which is $80, cannot recommend this to you enough. For the second time, if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more Frugal Friday videos in the future, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great weekend.